You can introduce me as Raw on Playing Dance if you want.
Oh, okay. Well, we're live now. So, you're say it
Oh,
again. So I was gonna call you P, but what'd you say?
You can just call me Pow Pow. That's fine.
Pow Pow. Okay. I mean, I'm probably gonna call you P because that's what it says.
Yeah, that works.
On the thingy.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Hi everybody. Welcome to my channel. I'm doing this little early afternoon stream, which is a very rare thing for me. But I have a guest who you can see him obviously, and he reached out to me because apparently my channel was one of the channels that helped him decide that although he was identifying as non-binary, he wanted to reclaim his biological male cisgenderness or something. And I don't really know the whole story, but I said, oh, hey, it would be cool to stream about it sometime. So I suggested Gaytriarchy, but he was working when that is going. But, you know, now, so we're going to be doing that. So I guess I'm curious about why and everything. But first, before you get into just your general backstory, can I ask you which videos of mine were the ones that you found interesting that made you think something? Because I would at least be able to have that as a frame of reference for the way I approach how I think of, like, do you see what, I'd want to know that, right? Yeah.
I think it would probably had to do with the intersectional feminists, like fourth wave intersectional feminists related videos.
Was it a specific, like you mean the one that intersectional feminism is communist particle board?
No, because I started following you probably about a year ago.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure if it was one specifically. I think it was more that it's just that I have no idea what was the first video that I watched of yours.
Okay, so no,
but it was more the time that around the time that I first started watching you was the time that I was leaving this non-binary group channel.
Okay.
I think, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Group channel. I don't know what you mean.
So there was a YouTube channel that I was a part of.
Okay.
Where we had a weekly topic, and then each day of the week there was a different person that gave their perspective or their ideas about it.
Oh, okay. So, how did you get set up with that?
I sought them out.
Oh, okay.
I was looking for a community, I guess. So
how did you first start getting interested in the non-binary crowd? Were you just found them on the internet, or had you noticed that you were always kind of femmy and you wanted a name for this, or what? Now I feel like I'm Benjamin Boyce. Do you ever watch him?
Who is that?
Okay, he's this guy I know who's a YouTuber, and he does interviews that sort of sound exactly like this, and I'm like, wait, this is awkward. And totally. I'm friends with him though. It's not like it's just funny to me. Well,
I'm lucky that I don't really get embarrassed too often. I mostly get third person embarrassment for other people. So, but let me see. So this is gonna kind of age me, but in the mid 2000s, I graduated high school in the mid 2000s.
Okay.
And I wasn't living at home, I guess.
I
was just in other places or whatever, but there was this this gay youth center where I lived, and they had a drop-in space that you could hang out with other queer kids. You had to be like 14 to like I think the oldest that you could be would be like I think the oldest you could be was 21. They
Oh,
had like specific age parameters
yeah.
of what you could be. So um so I think I was first introduced I was first introduced to the idea of like people being transgender at that youth center because there were transgender kids there.
Okay.
So, or not kids, but like teens and adults, and some of the volunteers were. And so I guess I first got introduced to the idea of like non-binary people, not specifically that name. I think people back people didn't really use the term non-binary back then. I don't think,
Yeah, not really so
from
much.
what I remember.
Yeah, if this was like the mid 2000s or so, like what I remember was that there was these people that would be very effeminate or masculine, depending upon if this was a something that was not typical of their biology, and then the deal was that they would respond to different pronouns. Like sometimes it would be somebody who is clearly biologically male, but they would prefer female pronouns, and or the reverse. But
Yeah,
it was usually a thing from my memory that it was kind of like if you knew this person, they would tell you that they kind of preferred that, but they didn't expect people to like actually treat them that way in general. It was just kind of like, well, yeah, I kind of feel like a girl inside, but like I'm not going to go through that whole like mess of transitioning. So I kind of like female pronouns, but it's not a big deal. That's what people were always like.
yeah, I had a similar experience. So during that time that I went to that youth center, I would say that I did for a couple of months try out being like I tried out here and there uh, living as like a transgendered woman
Uh-huh.
for some time. I did try it out for a little while, which
Now,
my experience wasn't that great. But
well, what was there any sort of like I guess this is very overt, but was there any peer pressure? Was there anybody around you that you got along with well, and you were like, oh, maybe I'm kind of like you, or
no, there wasn't. There was absolutely no peer pressure at all at this youth center. It's like I had a lot of really great memories there. It's just
oh, okay.
I already kind of like had like a inclination, or felt like, or had um, kind of like trans or just not. I don't want to call it dysphoria, but like I had that type of stuff going on when I was like I don't know all throughout when I was a child. I
Oh,
was really into. I have a video somewhere on the channel that's associated with this name
uh,
about like body related stuff that I would like had thought about when I was younger. And
uh,
I was really into the Little Mermaid
oh,
back
I
then,
was
and I kind
too.
of like yeah yeah I was really into the Little Mermaid, which we could talk about. That's not really the point of this discussion, but like people are like freaking out about the whole like race
Yeah,
of the live action Little Mermaid right now. It's absolutely nuts. But
it kind of seems a little bit more that people are wanting other people to be freaking out, and then they're like, "You're
no,
freaking out! You're freaking out!"
but
And
there, but then I,
they're the ones who
but
are
no,
freaking out.
yeah, but no one actually is. Like everyone's like, oh, okay. But like all these people on Facebook are like, oh, did you hear about the backlash about it? I'm like, not really.
Yeah. All the
So
conservative man babies are triggered. And it's like, well, and the mess up thing. Okay, this is what I'll say. Because I was thinking about making a whole video about this. And I still might, but I've just gotten behind on videos, so it's hard figuring out what are the most important. I actually was really into The Little Mermaid. It was like one of those movies that my aunt got my sister and I, and so we watched it over and over and over. And I very much was uh everyone loves the Under the Not Under the Sea, the Part of Your World song. You know, like that's the song that everyone loved, and I did a cover of that actually when I was older, and I made it into like a humorous thing. It's like it's a jokey thing that I initially recorded to perform at like burlesque, because I had a guy that I knew who was a drag performer that would host this like bizarre gay burlesque night thing, and I was going to make this sort of like stage show out of it. And then he stopped doing the night like right before I was going to do it. He was like, "Oh, I don't like that bar anymore. Sorry. That sounds awesome." You know, and I was like, "Oh." So, you know, I was really into that movie. And what I will say is that it's not so much the fact that the girl's black, like that's not really what it is. What bugs me is that they are actively messing with this thing that I loved as a kid. Like it's like I feel like they're trying to make me mad personally, and I know that would be very personal. That would be very paranoid. They're obviously not doing it to me personally, but like it's like I think about it in terms of like this is like I would be that person who really did love this, and it does like they keep doing this to things, and it does seem kind of like they're insulting us, you know, like they're trying to make someone angry, and then I would maybe be that person with this Little Mermaid thing. And then it's like, okay, now that does kind of irritate me a little bit. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it doesn't irritate me. Like I understand like where they're going, like the Caribbean, Jamaican, like calypso feel the music, and they want to set it in they want us to do like that kind of thing.
I didn't even really look at that. Like I should like if it is all like this like tropical theme, like maybe that'll be cool. Like I could check that out. But like there has you have to admit that there has definitely been a number of like, you know, like Marvel movies with Captain Marvel and the Ghostbusters things. It's like they're trying to make people mad, you know? Like
I don't know if you saw the live action Beauty and the Beast, but it's like, you know how like Belle had to like make a what was it, a washing machine or something, you know, so that the little girl could learn how to read. Yeah, she had to become the inventor because her dad wasn't like a sufficient enough inventor or something like that. So she became the inventor, and then she's helping this little girl learn how to read. So she was doing like laundry all the time. So then she like gave her the opportunity to read by making this this dishwashing machine.
huh.
I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't see that.
I don't know if you saw any of the live action.
But okay, but let's we were talking about how you had gender dysphoria as a kid because of the Little Mermaid.
Yeah. But actually, well, right, I didn't have it because of the Little Mermaid.
No, sorry, that came out
to her character.
Yeah. That came out.
I related a lot to the character because like merfolk don't have to really acknowledge, you know, their genitalia, like they're like this beautiful magical being, and just the way they move, and like I'm a dancer too, so it's like I just identified a lot with Ariel, and I mean a lot of people did. Like, oh yeah, I have a father who sets rules, and you know, and that's a bad thing, and I want to be free and do my own thing. But like whatever. But yeah, like so I was really into the Little Mermaid a lot, and I really wanted to be a mermaid for a long time. So I thought that like, oh, maybe like I'm trans, and so I was one of the things at this one of the things that they did at this youth center that I was talking about is that they had fundraisers, so they would do drag nights, and so I started experimenting with like cross dressing or whatever, and just performing in drag. And one of the numbers I did was, you know, the part of your world's number, actually. But so that brings it back to that as well. So after doing some of these drag performances, I thought, well, maybe like, you know, maybe I could try it out. Maybe I could try it, you know, maybe this is what I've been looking for to be more complete, you know. You know, but then it just didn't pan out. It's just it didn't feel right to me after a while. It just seemed kind of disingenuous. So I ended up moving this was in Minneapolis. I ended up moving from Minneapolis to like south of the cities in a more rural area, and I just kind of let go of that. It was something I was still thinking about, but it's just not. I didn't feel safe in this area. Not because I had a bad experience or anything, just because I didn't really know the area, so I didn't really think like, oh, I should experiment with my gender presentation in this area. So.
Well, I wanted to.
So that's kind of how that happened.
I wanted to move back. You said something that struck me a little bit. You said that when you were experimenting with gender bending, that there was a feeling of longing, like maybe it was going to complete you in a certain sense that you were hoping for. It sounded like.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, because there was a long time that I didn't feel super comfortable with being male or being a man, I guess.
Huh.
I'm not sure.
Do you have any insights onto why that would be? Like I can think of that, like for myself personally. I was raised by man-hating women. Like I know that easily. But and also I didn't like my father when I was a kid. Like when I was very little, I did not have a good relationship with him at all. And I thought I didn't want to be like him. So it was very easy for me to be naturally feminine to a certain degree. Until I realized how boring so many of the feminine gay men were, and how I was just like, you guys are boring. Like, don't you ever do anything competitive? When are we going to play video games? Come on. And then I started being a little bit more masculine. So, but like, can you think of anything like that?
I don't remember experiencing anything like outside my own, like what was going on up here and here, like in my head and my emotions that would have pointed or oriented me that way. Yeah, I grew up in a pretty large family, like an Irish Catholic family.
Okay.
So like men and fathers are pretty involved and like good people or whatever. I mean, I grew up like not getting along with my dad. For a long time, we got into it was the parenting term. You get into like power struggles, I guess. Like, so I got into like physical altercations with my dad all the time.
Huh. Would you say you didn't have a good relationship, or that?
I mean, it wasn't bad. It was good at times, but it's definitely like up and down. So, and he would always want to like put me in like. He was like, my parents are pretty liberal, I would say, and they let me try a lot of different things, like they allowed me to do dance and all different sports and arts and things. Like, I hate using this word, but I guess it was like kind of like privilege as like middle class, I guess. So yeah. I got to, try lots of different things. It's just that my dad would, want me to go into karate versus ballet, kind of thing. Like, you let me try it, but I was like,
See, that
he just wanted, I'm sure he wanted a son. Like my parents. Yeah.
It was funny with me. Like, I think my mom was okay. My dad didn't really care. Like, for me, when I was a kid, it was always like I was very, very drawn to things like video games, and I took fencing and these very kind of like boyish things. I didn't like the like typical sports stuff, but I liked, like I liked actiony things, like and my mom was trying to put pressure on me to, get me doing like dance stuff and everything, because she was a man hater. And so I think it was one of these weird situations where I ended up, because she was the only person putting pressure on me, I think I kind of ended up just naturally going towards the boy stuff, just in general. So
yeah, I had interest in both. Like, I loved playing soccer. I was like a midfielder, and I played soccer from kindergarten all the way up to, all the way up to like middle school or whatever. But like there was like, even when I was playing sports, like people would like interact with me like I was a guy,
Uh-huh.
but then I was like, I don't really like that. Like, I'll be good at being like, I'll kick your ass like in soccer or like or at any of these things, but I don't want you like treating me like a guy. I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean,
But like,
I would say a lot of gay guys probably don't have any good sense of why, most guys are like, I have no idea why I came out gay. Like I like discussing it just to hear if there's any things in common, because there's a lot of things that I do hear commonly. But for me personally, when I say, yeah, I had these things happen to me, I can see how could have sort of led to me being gay if I wasn't just born this way, which maybe I totally was. But I also accept that, there's some people who are like, nope, I had none of that happen to me. I'm just kind of like this. I'm like, oh, okay. So I bring up the questions, but
right.
So
when were you at, like, I'm sorry to age you, but when were you like, were you a teenager in the 90s? Or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I came out when I was 14 in 1996.
And I came out when I was 13 in 2003, 4, something like that.
Okay.
So, but I came out as bisexual.
Oh, I did too.
I was one of those people who came out as bisexual, and then oh, and then I dated. I had like really deep like emotional relationships with like a couple girls.
I
But
I was bi for about 2 weeks. The thing was, I didn't ever decide that I was going to come out. Like I never thought that I was gonna come out. Like I went to an alternative high school for numerous reasons. One of them being so that I could come out of the closet as gay, but that wasn't the only reason. Like it was like, I would have to be at the big high school at 7:45. At the alternative high school didn't have classes that started anywhere earlier than 9. So, and I was somebody who had major problems with sleep. Like I always felt tired and stuff. So I was like, okay, for hour and 15 minutes more every day, that is sweet. Sign me up. Like that was probably the biggest thing. And like I kind of knew that it was okay to be gay at the alternative high school. Well, my fucking sister had already been going there. And I think she and my mom got it in their little heads, their little gossipy ass heads, that the only reason I was going to the alternative school was to come out as gay, which wasn't true. So as soon as I got there, my sister was telling everybody, she's like, yeah, my brother's gay. Yeah, my brother's totally gay. Oh my God. Doesn't he sound like a drag queen? Blah, 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 blah. And so after like a few weeks, I like to say I didn't come out, I surrendered. Like I was like, okay. Yeah.
I had a similar experience as well. So one of my, like 2 of my friends at the time in middle school, I guess they had some sort of like bet going on in the school, and they got it up to like, I don't know, like 30, 40 people that were betting whether I was gay or straight, and then they were gonna ask me. And it like, I don't know, it was actually a lot more than that. Like my graduating class is like 820 people.
That's a lot.
But, and then, but like they had asked a lot of people, and then the bet had already gotten up to like 30 some dollars or something like that. And my friend, like,
my
I think her name was Kayla, at the time. Well, I wasn't like a popular kid in the sense that I was like really popular. It's just like I knew a lot of people because I was like a nice kid and I was involved in a lot of different things. That kind of way.
Yeah.
So a lot of people knew who I was. So
you organized the yearbook and everything.
No. I mean, I was like, environmental club and like all this other stupid shit. But like, so my friend Kayla was like, oh, I think I have an idea. I was like, oh, okay. It's just like, well, what if you tell people you're bi and then no one gets the money? I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. So like, that's what I did. And then I was just branded as bi for like the rest until like, I don't know, until like, cause when like the thing back then, like, you know how it was like the 90s and like mid 2000s or that like Y2K and all that shit. But like people like, even though like you said you were bi, like people would be like, oh, he's really gay, like, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like eventually people just like, you know, it just like I didn't have to like re-come out again or anything. It just like gradually became gay in the public eye.
Yeah.
So
Well, maybe it was
that's
already.
how that went down.
There's a term for what I think maybe you were like at high school. It's called living in the glass closet.
Okay, well, yeah, everyone knew that I was like back in like 5th grade, and I had no fucking idea. I
Yeah,
wasn't
I
even
think.
like sexual. I wasn't even like a sexual being back then. I was still like saying prayers every night because I grew up Catholic. I was like still saying prayers every night and like the rosary and shit, like wishing that could become a mermaid and shit. So, so I was like,
That's hilarious. It wasn't even you weren't trying to pray the gay away. You're trying to pray the human away.
yeah, pretty much. I don't think I'm talking about that way. Wait, I'm not going to be embarrassed, right? So
So okay. And then you ended up leaving home and you were hanging out at the drop-in center a lot. And that was in Minnesota.
in Minneapolis, yeah.
Minneapolis. And then you started experimenting with being trans. And then I think that's sort of where we were at. I guess.
Yeah, and then I had somewhat of a mental health crisis, I guess. I mean, I don't know how much I want to say about this, but I guess it's okay because it's like we don't have there's like stigma around mental health to begin with. But I was like dealing with like a lot of bipolar shit back in middle like high school through like the age of like 23 or whatever. It was kind of out of hand. So I just was living in places where it was like more supportive for mental health at the time, and the only place that I could find that type of support was like not in the metro area. So that's how I ended up moving down here.
Okay.
But yeah, and so something that's like kind of tricky about that is during the time that I was experimenting with my gender was also the time that I was like having a lot of mental health issues. And so I think that my parents may associate me experimenting with gender in different ways, at least my presentation, like the way I dress and stuff like that, with like mental health issues. So I think they might think like that's like an indicator that I'm not doing well, which that's made things difficult for me too, because it's really not. It's just
that sucks. So yeah, because anyone that's like, especially family members, they try to come up with easy ways to swallow things that you know, they're like, oh, I remember this before, this is how we got through it before. And it's like, well, you know, those things were two separate things, they were just going on at once. But for them, it's like, this is that one time when my son got all weird, and then maybe he'll stop again or something, you know what I mean? And I think that that's like a natural defense mechanism towards just rationalizations of how those people close to, especially when it's parents, because they're thinking of kid in terms of this person came from me, did I do a good job raising them? And so then they're sort of thinking, oh, are they crazy or are they trans? Oh, well, maybe they're both, maybe those things are one and the same.
Or maybe like all of these have to do with like their mental health, and there's not really their identity at all.
Yeah.
Like yeah. So
I mean, there are people who, like, I think that there was a paper that came out, or maybe some research info that came out, and this would be very controversial because there's a lot of stuff to the contrary at the moment, but that says that gender.
We can talk controversial bullshit. I'm not.
Well, but I just wouldn't mean that this isn't necessarily the only word in the establishment. Like this is probably in the someone who's a psychiatric professional, that transgenderism is it's not its own disease. It's usually a combination, not disease, but disorder, an abnormality, affliction, condition. I guess maybe condition sounds neutral. It's not necessarily its own thing. It's generally a combination of various other things, and that's one of the like and I've been thinking this for a while about certain people, that like it's like, well, what if this person is just severely, like maybe they're schizophrenic, like mildly schizophrenic, or relatively high levels of something like bipolar or a personality disorder. Like I don't really know,
Or,
and then they have body dysphoria. Like they have maybe for whatever reason they sort of hate their body. Maybe they were sexualized as a child, maybe they were molested, or maybe something that makes them feel uncomfortable in their own skin, and then they start obsessing over like OCD or something, and then that becomes an obsession with wanting to change into the other gender.
right. Or also autism as well, because that can make sensory related things difficult and intense. Yeah.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. Did you have
what's up?
Is there a link between us?
No, I don't think so. Maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I guess maybe you wanted to move into talking about, this is your show, but maybe you wanted to talk into moving into like when I met, like came across non-binary as an idea. Or
yeah,
like
let's
that. Because back when I was
get to that.
because back when I was at the going to the drop-in center there, they didn't have the term non-binary. They did. I don't even know if they use queer sometimes, and I liked queer, but they didn't really have a term like genderqueer. I think I discovered that after, even though that I'm like 2006, 7, that would have been around then, but I don't know if people were using it that much that way. I kind of liked the term genderqueer before people like made it into a thing or something.
Yeah, that's
yeah. So I guess.
Sorry, I was distracted by something. I got a message. I just had to respond real quick. I'm sorry. I need to close out that window so I can't see that anymore. Okay.
That's
so
fine.
in the mid 2000s, you were experimenting with being called genderqueer.
I don't know about that. Mostly just like I was experimenting with the idea of like possibly being a trans woman, and then possibly being someone who doesn't fit into male or female.
Okay.
That was when I was like that was when like the seed was kind of like planted, or that's when like I became aware of that type of thing, and I was like, oh, this might actually fit for me. But I, like, but this exists. But I didn't start
organically. Like,
yeah, I didn't start identifying. Right. I didn't, and that was mostly because I was like, because I think I had a conversation there, like at the drop-in center, there was this bar, because it might have been like a club at one time. There was a bar there, and I remember it's like sitting across from the bar from this one counselor there, and then they were talking about pronouns, I think, or something, or just like gender in general. Like we were talking about like because the bathrooms there, I think they had like 3 bathrooms or something, or like they had a rule where you could go in whatever bathroom you wanted, and like we were talking about I don't think it was about that either, because bathrooms weren't really an issue back then either. I'm trying to think of what it was we were talking about, but so, for some reason in our conversation, he was talking about how like, oh, there's like, there's some people that don't like identify as male or female. That's all he said. He didn't like push it on me or anything. I was like, maybe I'm one of those people. And so I just kind of carried that with me when I moved down here to this part of the state. And then I came across, I can't find it anywhere, but I came like probably in 2011, 2012. I came across this video. It was whoever was doing the filming for the video was pretty good at filming and editing, but it was this person that reminded me of myself, where like there's aspects of me that are more masculine, that are more feminine, but I don't really, I'm not really like one of those gay, I'm not like a gay guy who's like really like like queenie, like in the sense of like how you like the stereotype of like the queenie twinkie like circuit boy. I'm not really like that. But there's this guy that just like there's something about him. He had facial hair. He had like a mullet, and he was like just kind of like a little feminine. And he was talking about how he didn't really identify as a man or a woman. He identified as genderqueer. It was like, okay, it was like this like 3-minute long video. And I don't know how I came across it either, but like after that, I started like identifying as genderqueer because it just kind of, I resonated with that. And then, I don't know. Oh, sorry, I'm making this video like super long.
No. It's fine. It's fine. I'm just taking it in. So you were genderqueer at that point, but had you met the non-binaries?
No, I hadn't.
Okay. Why don't you tell me about, so you were identifying as genderqueer for a while and then you met the non-binaries. I have to step away, but so I'm going to mute myself. Just be aware of that, but I'm going to turn the volume up really loud so that I can hear everything, okay?
That's fine.
Yeah.
So, when did I meet the non-binary? Probably, I know that I started getting involved in that particular YouTube channel, which I'm not going to name because I don't want people going there and hating on them. I think I still have my videos up there. I think that I got involved with them in like 2015. So there's like this gap of time between like that video that I saw in 2011 or 12, when I was also a hairdresser at the time. So that gives me like a time, like a frame of reference of when this was going on. But I was publicly like telling people that I was genderqueer for a couple, like probably like 3 or 4 years before I met non-binary people. The thing is that about the non-binary thing about the non-binary crowd is that I didn't know that like it came with all of these political expectations.
Yeah, well, what you know, sorry, I heard
political leanings. Like
I heard that whole thing, that what you were saying, and it's interesting that this came about in 2015, because I always say that 2015 was the year that the the far left intersectional feminist thing, that was the real peak of it. Not because it didn't get kind of more attention after that, but because that was the year that they thought that they were invincible. Like 2015, they showed us how they would act if they were in charge of the world. And it turns out that they were CUNTs, you know what I mean? Like they were, and they had all these like ways of trying to explain everything in terms of politics and with patriarchy and, things like, what's up?
Well, that like ties into it. I remember why I got involved in the channel, because they put out a specific call for people that were non-binary and people of color.
Was it a POC thing?
So I haven't, like, I was like, well, I haven't seen a lot of non-binary people of color. It seems to be mostly like white femme boys that, or like girls that are like overweight or something. Like really like offensive. Like I do have a lot of friends that I identify as non-binary still, and I try to keep like, I try not to talk about that, but
I
Yeah.
have a friend that made a joke. A friend of mine made a joke on Facebook one time that said, "Doesn't queer just mean that part of your head is shaved?"
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
but wait, I didn't hear an answer on this. Was it advertised as a QTPOC? Was that what they were looking for?
What is that?
Well,
Sorry for my ignorance.
they call it cutie pox sometimes. It stands for queer and trans people of color. And
Oh, I've seen those communities, but this was not one of those
okay,
communities because it also had like people on it.
it also had white people. Okay, but
Yeah.
they wanted a token.
Well, they had like people that they had like Asian, Latino, Native American. They had like other people, but they had like someone from East Africa. Like they had diversity, and that was what attracted to me to their channel in the first place.
Yeah.
But they were looking for more. So,
Okay.
but yeah, there was I didn't see that community the people. They didn't seem to be like super fixated on race in the way that I'm seeing lately. People talk about like I made this post on Facebook recently that that racism against white people exists, and like half of the people on my friends list like slipped a tit. It was like it's ridiculous. But
It's so were they acting were they acting like they were going to be able to lecture you on something that you had obviously never heard about? Like, don't you know that it's a system and that blah 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 blah? Like, you had never fucking heard it before. Was that what
right,
it was?
and then I said, yeah, and then I said something about like, well, I don't use the term people of color because I just hate it because it's like it groups all people who are not white together when I don't see how that like makes an experience. Like
you do watch my channel. That's something that that's a point that I've made. I don't know if you ever saw this video of mine, but I had an old video called "Stop Using POC," and I said that I suggested that people say racial minority just because it's so technical that you can't really claim it's offensive. Whereas if you're calling everybody from like Japanese people to Nigerian to South American, you're all calling everybody people of color. It's like acting like they're not even different. Like you're trying to, and you're also just calling them colored, really, and that just seems racist to me. Like what, I mean, like you can call, like I can see what people would say like black, Asian, white, just because it's easy to make those distinctions because you can see, and then maybe like indigenous for people from the Americas or something like that. I don't know. But at the same time,
it's all very location specific. Some of these terms too,
yeah,
like they won't apply if you go to Japan. Like a white person becomes a minority there.
Yeah, well,
a minority in Japan. So it's just
what's funny about Japan, because I've been, is that if you go to Japan, you're not even like a white foreigner anymore. You're just gaijin, which is foreigner, and that's the only word that they'll really use. They're like, oh, gaijin, like they see non-Japanese person, they can tell, and that's the main factor, So, but okay.
Well, it's useful for them because they need to be able to identify someone outside of their culture. So, like,
yeah, and it's a very
it works. It's not necessarily it's not a racial word specifically. So, kind of is, but
well, and it's a very what's the sorry, someone is posting a lot of stuff. It's okay. I don't okay, he's saying weird stuff. I think he's a troll. I'm gonna, dude. I don't know what your deal is, but I'm.
How do I see the live stream?
You would have to open it up.
How do I see the? Should I have to? We're live right now.
Yeah, we're live.
I can open up my.
You can open it up on YouTube, but so there's somebody spamming the chat and saying like weird crap, like he's talking about shooting up stores, and I would prefer that not to be in my comments, so I put them on a timeout. But
Okay.
so we were talking about how you were attracted to this group because of the fact that they had wanted racial minorities, and you said okay, and you had already considered yourself genderqueer, and then was this how you really started? Oh, you have to mute yourself because I can hear that. Um,
I know.
mute that
Sorry about that.
in the window. Okay, that's okay. So um, the you were talking about how there were political things that came along with non-binary, and that's the thing that I noticed. Like prior to around 2014, 2015, people weren't really calling themselves non-binary. They were genderqueer. They would sometimes go by they them pronouns. Usually they would say, oh, I go by he, she, or they. I knew people that went by it, sometimes, and that was awkward. But then it was around 2015 that it became this thing where it was like, no, you cannot call me he, you cannot call me she, you have to call me they, and I am non-binary. And it was a thing. Like, it was supposed to be, everyone who was like this was supposed to be the same, in the same way that, like, I am a gay man, but everyone who's non-binary is the same. And then it was this very political thing, and then it turned out, I got to know more about this and all these people and like what they're into, and some of them might not really realize it, but it is all very communist rooted, is the thing, but not directly communist. It came from communism and evolved into this weird state that it is now, which Jordan Peterson would call postmodern neo-Marxism, and that is best represented by what we call intersectional feminism. And this idea of non-binary is one of the cornerstones of intersectional feminism. So
Thank you for that.
yeah. So
the thing is about it is that you were going to transition to a question or another topic, or
well, yeah, no. So that was 2015.
I have something to say.
Yeah. Hey, Raw Unplanned Dance, I'm gonna make you moderator. Don't hesitate to put people in timeout if they're very clearly just spamming the chat. So yeah, please do that. Like this Daddy Arcan person is pretty obviously, I don't know who these people are. But so yeah, what were you gonna say? I just wanted to bring
us. I don't know how they found us.
Oh no, they no. No,
Oh.
it's they found me. They didn't find you. Don't you worry. It's not about you. So yeah, there's a lot of people that like to troll me. So
this Charles Ryan Lee person. I just followed their channel recently. They're interesting. Anyways, so my experience with the non-binary people. Yeah, so they were like very welcoming or whatever before they knew my political leanings, or before they knew that I was doing the Jordan Peterson self-authoring program, or all sorts of other things. They're just like, they would just kind of like ignore me, or they wouldn't do anything because like they're not aggressive people most of the time. They're passive aggressive people. Like they're not. I don't find that many. Like if you're gonna be like mixed gendered, you're not gonna have a lot of masculine energy, I would say. Whatever that mixed gendered means, or like if you're gonna be non-binary, so a lot of these people don't. They just don't have that masculine energy, so they're not gonna like be real with you or come at you like that. They're gonna be passive aggressive about it.
Yeah, they're never gonna confront. They're never gonna confront you. They have.
Right, or if they are going to do that, they're gonna do it in a way that's like mean. I don't know. It's like it doesn't have that warmth to it. So I don't know. It's just kind of like mean, like, like you did something wrong and I'm gonna punish you for it. Not like, okay, this is like where we're at. Let me explain like where I'm at and where you're at. I don't know. It's just a different energy.
Would you say that there's one of the would you say that one of the differences in dealing with the non-binary type crowd is that it feels like all of a sudden they just stop communicating entirely, as if they're mad but you don't really know why, and they don't seem to be interested in explaining it to you?
I don't think I had that because I wasn't on the outside. If that makes sense. Like, when people see me and they see me like, I don't know, have a bindi on my forehead or wear like women's clothing or whatever like that, they like automatically assume like all, whether they're on the left or the right, they automatically assume what all of my ideologies are. So, you know, I don't know. So like people like will automatically like kind of like
well, so
I'll be like a friend, I guess, to them.
What I'm having problems figuring out is when you're talking about these people being mean versus masculine. Are you comparing your own experience with like a masculine person being upset as opposed to one of these non-binary people being upset? I just didn't quite follow that line of thought.
Oh yeah. Yes, I was. Sorry.
Okay, so how is it? So how, explain to us again first what it's like when a masculine person is upset, and then what it's like when a non-binary person's upset.
I can't like group all non-binary people together. It's just like my experience with some non-binary people. So
with the ones that you've known. Yeah.
So with dealing with men, or even not all men are in tune with their masculinity, but with people who are secure with their masculinity, they're just gonna tell you what they think or how they feel, and there's really like no hidden agenda or anything behind that, in my experience. Whereas with someone who isn't in touch with that, if they aren't in touch with either like their masculine or their feminine side or both, like if a person was in touch with their feminine side, then, or the feminine energy, or the divine feminine, then they would just be receptive to it. But like people who are the non-binary people that I've had experiences with, they're like neither. So they just kind of become somewhat passive aggressive. So they, I don't know, like especially when they're upset.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's making a big generalization.
No, but I don't think it's an unfair generalization. Because I think that that's something that I've noticed that is, you know, in the LGBT and actually in even far leftist areas, like probably in Minneapolis, and in Portland, Seattle, places like Berkeley, especially, there's not a lot of masculine energy there at all at any of those places, right? And there's gay people, and then there's women, and then there's feminist women who are, you know, extra like this, and then there's these non-binary people, and I think all of them are sort of lacking in masculinity to a certain degree. Like a lot of them, not all of them, but like you'll go to places like Seattle, and not so much now, but maybe in like the 90s especially, I noticed that a lot of the male straight guys who would be geeks and everything, and they would, you know, maybe date feminists. They would be very, very feminine. And it was like none of them had the assertiveness that most men have. And you know, if there's a masculine guy and he has a problem with something, and this is, you know, a little bit more stereotypical, but it does tend to be like this. The guy will say what the problem is, say exactly what it is, and then if he feels like the problem is worked out, then move on. Whereas if someone doesn't have the ability to do that, they don't know how to get their needs met. Well, I would notice a lot of the gay guys are often bad at doing that, as are a lot of women, and feminist gay men, and, you know, the non-binary crowd. And sometimes it's like, you have to wonder, is for some people, is non-binary the label that they come to when they realize that they don't have a whole lot of masculinity, but they're not as feminine as some of the other people that they know. Like, you know, there's full on long hair dresses and skirts females, and then there's these sort of tomboy girls, but they all kind of act like girls in the grand scheme of things. So it's like, well, maybe I'm non-binary because she's a woman. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you can definitely find men and women, and yes, I'm like acknowledging like there's like these in between people. That's fine. Like they've created terms for that. I still believe that, you know, there's biologically a male and female genders, but there are people that are, you can tell, and this gets into like woo-woo kind of like spirituality stuff, and I know you don't focus a lot on your channel about that, but with that preface aside, there are people who are definitely in touch with like the divine feminine energy and the divine masculine energy, and when you're kind of like floating in between, like I don't know where you are. It's like you don't. I don't think that you can be as confident unless you're embodying one or the other polarities.
Huh.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess I would have to know more about how you see these things, and that would be kind of a long conversation.
Yeah, that's too long.
Yeah, like yeah, the whole like spiritual conversation is pretty long. I mean, I think I have my own views, and we might have fairly similar views, but I wouldn't expect the audience to be on the same page. So right. You got more and more a part of this community, and you long story short, you started noticing that they were kind of passive aggressive.
Yeah, well, I noticed that that they wouldn't. It wasn't so much the people that were running the channel, because I was a moderator, of course, but the audience would totally try to punish me when I talked about certain topics. Like there wasn't a lot of audience participation on this YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember I made a video about that there's probably genderqueer and non-binary people that are conservative. Like, it's okay to be non-binary and conservative. It's okay to be conservative and be like somewhere in the middle of the gender spectrum. And that video got like 7-8 dislikes. I was like, okay. Like, so I started looking around to find other people who would identify as non-binary who are also had some conservative views or whatever.
Did you find
like more center leaning? And I found like 2 people on YouTube.
Who? I'm so curious. Who?
I don't know if I could find them anymore.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I probably could if I looked through my subscribe list.
We're okay.
But I talked to them a little bit, but
Oh, so were they like smaller channels though?
They were like really small channels that like they would
Okay.
like post just like long rants. And like they
Oh.
would have like, you know, like 29 views, but then there would only be like 15 people subscribed to the channel or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you know the
So
thing is
yeah.
that I the thing that I've
But yeah,
noticed
like
the thing that I've noticed about the non-binary crowd is that there's often, like more than often, like it used to be this thing for kind of people that were just somewhere in the middle naturally, and they didn't really have a term for it, and they didn't really care what the term was. They were just sort of being themselves, and it wasn't really about having a label or necessarily about being like other people. It wasn't conformist. And I guess this is the nice thing about talking to you is that um I've never used the word conformist to describe the non-binary people in this particular way, but so many of the people became so conformist. It became this thing that other kids were doing to fit in with certain crowds, whereas it used to be this very individualist thing, and it was like, oh, yeah, you can kind of call me whatever. I've just always been this way, and then it changed, and then not only is it conformist, but it's kind of elitist a lot of the time. It seems like a lot of these people, um like I watched, there was this Vice special that was interviewing people from the LGBT community all talk to each other, and Blair White was on it, and then there was this kind of a, you know, I just call the person the ContraPoints, because it was this sort of like non-binary genderqueer, and that person tried to, like, you know, pull rank a little bit, like act like they were better than everyone, because they literally said, like, who here identifies as trans, and a number of people raised their hands, and I think Blair was like, I'm a transsexual, and then the person that I called the ContraPoints, they raised their hand and said, I'm non-binary, which is that I'm part masculine, part masculine, part feminine, and part much more, or something like, and part beyond, or something like that. And it was this really um pretentious, like, but I've heard a lot of non-binary people, you know, say things like that. I mean, it's like, it means I'm part woman and part, or it means it's like I'm more woman than you're ever gonna get, and more man than you're ever gonna be, and like crap like that. And it's like these people like actually think that they're part of the special, the chosen few, by you know, declaring themselves non-binary, is a thing that it's a repeated pattern. So that was a little bit of a rant. I wanted to know if you had
that
any
was a
experiences with
rant.
people that were like that.
Not no, because those people that are like completely like out there like that, like most of the people in the community that I was a part of, like just kind of like did their thing, like minded their own business. Like maybe they had a Tumblr, or like I was never on Tumblr. I don't like Tumblr at all, but like I don't know, they kind of did their own thing. Like they weren't out to necessarily, like they were out to like change the world, but not in such a necessarily radical way. I don't know. I guess it depends. I can't speak for everyone on that channel, but
Well, did you ever go to? Did you
not
ever?
had personal experience with people that are like talking about that. But I do know what you're talking. I do know what you're talking about. Where they're talking, whether like, you know, like my gender can't be defined because it's like I have so much gender. Like I
Yeah,
have like, you know, uh, or I have no gender at all. I have like, it's like the number zero. Like they have like more, like it can't be counted. It's so big,
yeah,
or
or
so
yeah,
small,
yeah,
or I don't know,
or like
something like
the
that.
yeah, like,
Some convoluted bullshit.
yeah. It's kind of like saying like I'm more than you will ever be able to comprehend, or something. Hello?
I'm just reading the chat now.
Oh, okay. Don't
I'm
do
still
that too
here.
much. I'm
I'm just
trying to
reading the
talk
chat
to
right
you.
now.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Uh. Oh. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this guy Franz Meyer is saying, host basically pointed out that people who identify as non-binary seem to lack masculinity. You're probably just a stereotypical dude, pragmatic, not an artsy fartsy touchy feely kind of guy. Okay, you can think whatever you want, dude. That's really embarrassing that he would even think that. Like, how did this person find my channel and he has no idea? Is he just like, okay, no, that is a thing about the non-binary people. They swarm around in packs and they have a tendency to get offended by things, and I think that they would be the type of people who would just search into YouTube non-binary, maybe look for non-binary live streams. Maybe I'm getting people like that. I don't know. It's not a big deal to me either way, but ultimately
It's fine with me either.
Yeah.
But we can move into the next chapter. So I became like, I had been listening to I've been listening and watching both Jordan Peterson and Blair White since like probably around the same time that I was interested in that channel. But like around 2015 or so. So like, I'm a person who likes diverse opinions and ideas, and I don't, I'm not offended if I'm listening or reading a book or listening to a live stream that doesn't align with what I think specifically, but I like that kind of thing. So, but like, I wanted to have discussions about things that I was reading or watching with these groups or these people, and they would get like they would be like, that person's canceled. I was like, but why? Like,
and they're like,
can you tell me, like,
and they'd be like,
that person is a racist.
Yeah, or they'd be like, I'm not going to watch someone that's canceled. And I was like, well, you just canceled them. You just sort of said that, right? But,
yeah,
is that the kind of thing that they would say?
But like, yeah, I started getting more into that, where like people, like, I was like, well, if we're going to have a discussion about this, you have to like know what they're saying.
Yeah.
Like, why? Well, I heard this, and why would I watch that? Or, like, people told me like this about them, or I'm like, okay.
Did you find that they were entirely all too eager to shut down the possibility of even knowing what they were talking about? Like, they didn't want to even know what somebody like Jordan B. Peterson was saying?
Yeah, and then I found out, like, if I tell you this part of the information, like, it'll be easier. It might be easy to find the channel I was a part of, but the person, and I didn't know this until like maybe a year or like half a year after, but the person that like started like verbally screaming and assaulting Jordan Peterson in that video, or that one video where there's all those college kids all around.
Oh yeah.
Is the person that is one of the people, the founding members of that channel that I was a part of. And then I was like, oh God, shit. I didn't realize like how deep I had gotten into this. And I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore.
That's crazy. I mean, I think I know which clip you're talking about, but the thing is, I still wouldn't know how to find this person. I don't know who they are. I don't know what their name is, so it's not like, yeah. But some people might. I don't know.
If you, some people might. So
yeah.
So I'm trying to think of like timeline wise when that was, because like, let's see. And then there's just a lot of things I wasn't proud of. Like, I had like somewhat of a mental health crisis back in 2016, like a small one. And I remember I was doing a show at my, like, because I'm actually working on a show right now. If you're in the Red Wing area, I'm like totally doxing myself, but if you're in the Red Wing area, like, go see Into the Woods. I've done all the wigs for that show. But so I was working on like wigs for a show at my local like community theater, and I I wasn't in the right mind, but I was like starting to develop all these bad habits that I had absorbed from being in the non-binary communities that I was a part of. Like I started like accusing the costume designer. I was like, I wasn't in the right mind, like so I was having like bipolar episodes, but like I accused the costume designer of I accused the costume designer of being racist and homophobic, and it's like that is like totally something that they like people like that would have done. After I came like later that fall, it's just like I didn't want to be that person anymore, so I just kind of left out those communities. I was like, nope, I don't want to be that person.
So, I guess we might want to be starting to wrap it up because we've gotten to the around the time that
that's fine.
But I guess your progression sounds genuine in that you actually were someone who was gender confused. You were someone that felt I correct me if I'm wrong. It's felt like you weren't sure if you were male or female entirely, and you were experimenting around. And then eventually there was words for this, and then turned out there was communities for this, and you found yourself just gravitating towards them. And then after a while, once you realized what those communities were actually like, and you know the type of politics and the type of ideas espoused by the people in that company, once you were with that company, then you realize that you didn't want anything to do with that actual community, because for you it was just sort of how you were. Is that a fair description?
Yeah, and even though I may be like I don't mind the term gender non-conforming, because I think that works. Like I am pretty gender non-conforming sometimes, but I really like I identify as a man, and that's about it, I guess. I try not to look too into it. Like sometimes people want to sit down with me now that it's like in the ethos, or it's like it's out there now. Like the general public knows about these things, so they come up to me and they ask me what my pronouns are, and they want to be my friend because they think I'm like can add to diversity on their on their on their whatever, like that kind of shit. So
I can see that with no, I can see that with you. Like I think that that's fair. Like gender non-conforming. Like I mean I think that label kind of applies to me. I've made jokes about being I say things like I'm masculine in a feminine way, things like that. You know, because it's funny. Like. Can you see how that makes sense with even like how I sort of act on air? Like, you can't see my like hand gesture.
Yeah, it fits you very well.
Yeah, but like no, if you see me in person, like I still have that like like I'm very animated. But I still move a little bit female-ish, just a little. Also, kind of crazy person-ish. Like, but I'm kind of jerky. It mainly has to do with bad posture, though. I used to think that I like when I was.
Oh jeez.
I used to say I walk like a straight guy, but then I realized that that's just because I have like a messed up back. So.
That's funny. You don't have like the flexibility to like move those hips around in a fluid manner.
Yeah. I'm a little bit less of a stallion, a little bit more like a truck. Hey, I'm putting you in timeout, Kizum, Mr. Troll that acts exactly like Kizum Falu. You're annoying. I shouldn't say his name out loud though. That's mean. But no, there is a troll that just showed up and he's insufferable. He likes to try to monopolize. I think he's very lonely and he likes to try to monopolize the entire chat by just spamming a lot. Getting a lot of trolls today, and then so much so that I even mistakes. Well, yeah, no, this guy in particular, though, I'm letting you know every time you ever come here, I'm putting you in timeout immediately. Okay, so yeah, so let's
was there any actual questions in the chat that were like valid or ones that we could explore quick, or not really? I didn't see anything really that interesting.
I didn't really see anything, no, but we could ask for some people if they want to ask some questions. No, you're not a troll, Charles. You're very commonly in my chats, and you're always perfectly respectful. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Charles. Charles is cool.
Yeah.
So let me just give like a quick update of like where I'm at like now through all this like transition or whatever. Now I've like I think I had to, we're going like more spiritual for a second, but all of those things to come to the realization that I am actually, you know, okay with being male. I'm okay with masculinity and trying to strengthen that or those qualities in myself. The other YouTuber that I don't know if you checked this person out, but like his name is Yogi Obes. But
No, I've never heard of it.
He was another person that was helpful as well. I was watching his channel called I was watching his channel Stop Being Confused About Health, and then he started like he just had his own channel called like, his name is Abhishek Saha, and he's like East Indian descent.
You could link
but he has some cool ideas. He's like in the manos. He's in the yeah, I can link you. He's in the manosphere as well.
Okay.
But he is like focusing on people getting in tune with their like their masculine nature or their feminine nature, depending on like with what their biological sex is, and like he's all about health, mostly health, I would say. But yeah, both of you, I found actually to be helpful.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I think of something else.
What was there a part of you that was struggling to admit that you were a male, or own it and embrace it emotionally or anything?
This entire time. Yeah, there definitely was this entire time, because I
Explain.
Cool.
Just.
Oh, okay. So, I'm trying to think like how I want to word this. So, I'm an artist. I don't know if you could tell like by my apartment or whatever, but like I do painting and I also do dance, mostly, like a little bit of animation sometimes. But when I was first like exploring my sexuality and my gender, not even my gender probably, because I didn't know anything about that back then. Back around the time that I came out, like we want to go back a little bit in our conversation. I was drawing a lot of images of I guess they would be like pornographic, I would say. But I was drawing a lot of images of men that were in like very like masculine positions or things like that, and like also like doing like sexual types of things. But I would always like imagine, like I would show them to other people or whatever, and they would be like, "Oh, like they would." Some of my friends would be like, "Who are you in this picture? Like this doesn't seem like this doesn't seem like you at all. Like where did this art come from?" And like I would always be like, "Well, I like I envision myself like being like in, because you know like in like pornography you kind of like put yourself into the mode of whoever you're watching or whatever. I don't know what that's called. It's like I don't know. Like I guess you could just be an observer while watching porn, but then like there's also this thing where like you can put yourself as one of the participants. What is that? Do you know what I'm talking about? Can you still hear me? I wonder if we're having issues. Check.
No. Sorry, I can hear you. Hold on. I hold on. Okay, so the thing was, I went to the bathroom again, like before, and I was just waiting for you to talk because I didn't want to interrupt you. Because every time I interrupt you, it does seem like there's a delay or something, and so I was hoping that you would just keep talking. But so yeah, you were talking about
Yeah.
like people wondering which one of the figures that you were drawing that you identified with that would maybe that you projected yourself onto.
Right. Yeah, and it would always be like it would be the person in the like most like masculine like role or energy or whatever. So I've always been there. There has always been some sort of like incongruence with me connecting to with my masculine side, but it would definitely come out in these drawings that I did, like where I wasn't thinking at all. I was just like, when you're DJing or when you've been doing like music or art or writing or things like that, you get into this mode, and other people who are artists, I'm sure they'll be able to understand. You get in this mode where you're just like
You're
a Thor hammer,
you're channeling.
it's like yeah, you're just channeling. Yeah, you're just channeling, like, and you're just creating like as you go, and there's like this flow, right? So like like when I was making this art, like throughout my teens and 20s, it's not like I was like thinking a lot about it. It's just like I would just end up doing stuff. And I think that like I'm finally like I'll be 32 soon, like later this year. But like I'm finally coming to a place where I feel like it can incorporate um all all aspects of feeling more complete. And then I was talking about that earlier, and I thought that possibly the transitioning into being a woman would do that for me, but I'm finding now like accepting the masculine sides of me for whatever reason. I have no idea why I wasn't before, or why I had a aversion to that.
Was it?
But now at this point in my life, I'm okay with embracing those things.
Would it maybe have something to do with this notion of you
Was it
think,
what?
um, like if there would be an ideal man, maybe you weren't seeing yourself in that role. Maybe you were seeing yourself as something else. And you learn to accept, like, hey, maybe I'm not this stereotypical man, but that doesn't mean I'm not a man. And being okay with the type of man that you are.
Um, kind of. That it seems like what you're saying is a similar flavor to what I'm talking about, but not quite
Okay.
exact. Because it's like I think I don't think I ever had a problem with who I was or who I was exploring at the time. Just didn't necessarily seem to fit for me. So I wasn't necessarily like doing it for like the world or for other people or anything like that.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
But yeah, but I'm cool now. So
Okay. So
so
there were a few.
hopefully my story is interesting for someone.
Yeah, no, there were a few questions in the chat still.
Okay.
So he says, is non-binary stuff more of an intuition, emotional thing, or is it like pragmatically? I think he means analyzable. It's
Oh,
analyzable. Yeah, I think that like can you analyze it pragmatically? I would say that it's probably
no,
more
I
of
don't
the
think you can analyze it by science. I don't think you
yeah.
can analyze it by science or using like scientific reasonings.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the people who are really, really into it know better than anybody that that they're viewing it as some sort of like magicy witchcrafty thing. You know, like they think that they're special because they understand this and you don't a lot of the time.
Yeah, but stupid thing where they do that stupid thing. They do that stupid thing where they want like because I feel this way that I'm gonna find all of these like studies and things like that support the way I feel. which isn't really how science works.
Yeah. Well, and would you say that there's people that are like that, that you don't even really believe that they do feel that way, and that they're just kind of saying they feel like that because they think it would be cool? Like, oh, I had dreams last night that I was the reincarnation of an Egyptian princess. And it's like, no, you didn't. You're just saying that. Have you ever known people like that?
Yeah, I really want to be shady and call out some like non-binary people that I've interacted with, like that are in the public eye, like especially like on YouTube and like people. But I don't know if I want to do that or not.
Yeah, you have to carefully decide whether you would want to do something like that. And if you haven't decided yet, I wouldn't want you to do it on my channel. But hey, you know what? I think that this is
okay. Well, then.
Wait, what's up?
I think that's great. I like this is a pretty good place to close if you want.
Yeah. Because I'm starting to like get yawny, and I gotta start taking out my trash and recycling because I've been lacking on that, and I can barely walk from all of my paper bags and boxes that have been stacking up in my.
The only thing that I would like to know before we close is, like, when it comes to your gender, have you ever had like thoughts about like possibly you weren't a man, or were you always like, oh, I'm a man?
I never thought that I wasn't a man. I've you know the weird thing though, and I have imagined what it would feel like to have a vagina before, but it was only in terms of like, okay. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on air. Okay, so I do many gay guys, and myself included, do enjoy sex, both penetrating and being penetrated. I am theoretically versatile.
I do not. I am a total top. If anyone, that's not anyone's business. But it's like, no.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the thing is, I have almost exclusively only been a top, but I have enjoyed bottoming in the past. I'm just bad at it, is the thing. Like I don't think I'm. Yeah, I think I'm just. I think that would be a really long story about, you know, like my back problems and stuff. But I'm not good at bottoming, you know, and I don't have a particularly nice ass anyway, and so it's not like guys are like lining up to, you know, and so I've been a top, but you know, I have enjoyed bottoming, and I was like, you know, it would be nice is if I had like a different hole, and so I've like thought about what that would be like, but nothing like serious, and like, you know, it was never really like, ooh, I want to be a woman with curves and female curves. It was just kind of like, yeah, it'd be cool if I, you know, had a hole that wasn't the same thing that shit comes out of to get fucked with. You know what I mean? Like that, but that was the closest thing to it.
Yeah.
For me, I've never actually like thought of myself as a woman. No.
Yeah.
But you know, I have thought of myself.
That's very specific.
I have thought of what's the I have identified with a lot of female characters in movies and video games and things like that, but I feel like every gay guy does that, you know. That's not like, actually, yeah, I've never.
I think that's the other thing that I like. And maybe if you have me on your stream some other time, we can talk more about that, like particular aspect, like why do gay men always like have a diva, or like why do gay men like always like main this character when they play video games or something like that. And we should talk about Overwatch sometime more too, because you're the person that got me into Overwatch.
Oh, well. You play Overwatch? Yeah. Who's your main?
I started playing here and there because of you. I don't really have a main yet because I haven't played it long enough to like know who I would main.
Oh, but it's kind of overwhelming, huh?
I sometimes play. there's so many as characters, and I love all their stories. So
Well, that's cool. Yeah, we could talk about that some other time.
I've watched all the cutscenes.
The lore. Okay. Well, hey, it was really great talking to you.
That's a good place to close. It was nice talking to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna end this, and maybe I can have you back on sometime.
Feel free to. Okay.
Okay. Talk to you later.
All right, and if you like, sometime check out my dance videos too. All right, bye.
Okay. Bye.